side. Just simply get out of the driver's side onto the passenger side and allow God to drive and to direct your life. And I'm sure things will get better for you. Welcome to P equals GE square. I'm Thomas Long, your host. We've got an exciting show planned for you today. Our topic is who's in charge, the parents or the children? Who's in charge, the parents or the children? We will be addressing that issue. I simply want to say to all of you out there, the number to call is 452-3094, 452-3094. You can call us. You can also, and I've got a special guest coming all the way in from out of town, and he's running a little late. He got lost, and needless to say, when you're on the telephone as much as I am, you forget to charge it up. So now he's having havoc trying to get to the radio station. What's going on in the United States? What's going on in Tennessee? What's going on in Memphis? I simply say to you, obviously, since the Mueller investigation has concluded, people are now, everybody is spending it any way that they want. You got the Republicans, you got the Democrats. I simply say to all of you out there, just remember to go and vote. Local politics, all politics are local, and you need to vote. Because if you had voted, then you wouldn't be dealing with Trump. So you've got to do that, but I'm not going to spend a lot of time on what's happening across America. All you've got to do is go out there and go on your YouTube. You can Google, you can do whatever, read the newspaper, or just check the local and national news. It's a mess. So I don't want to spend any more of my time addressing what's going on nationally. But I do want to say something, though. It's one particular item that I had on my agenda to discuss today, and that was the senseless killing, murder of the young man out in Compton in Los Angeles. I simply see and I wonder what in the world is happening to our African-American youth. That's one of the reasons why I chose the topic, who's in charge today, because I'm deeply troubled, deeply saddened. I want to extend my personal condolences to the family, because it was truly a success story of a young man who chose to come back into his community, come back, and then you got these idiots, these dope, these crazy folk that simply eliminated the young man. Crazy. But what's going on in Tennessee? Well, Tennessee, you know that they've been Cassidy, the chairman of the Speaker of the House. He's been going back and forth about Mr. Byrd. He finally acquiesced and removed him from the chairmanship. And now you're talking about a lot of other stuff that's going on. Vouchers, you name it, is going on. And so I'll simply say to you that you've got to pay attention to the politics of what's going on in Memphis. I'm going to change microphones. Can you? Yeah, all right, that's better. Yeah, okay, that is a lot better. I want to, but as we're getting ready here, we are in our new production studio. I simply want to say welcome to Mrs. Muse. She is the person that keeps us all videoed up, text up, you name it. She makes it work for us. And so I do want to say thank you for coming, Ms. Muse. Our guest, he has called, and I think that he's lost. And of course, he's okay. They tell me he's outside. But statewide, we're talking about statewide politics. Tennessee is a red state. Now, I know a lot of you guys are going to disagree with me, but I said it when Senator Tate was running for re-election. We've got to understand that some of us must learn to play politics the way it is. And politics determine who get how much of what win. If we're all in the same basket, then what do you expect to get? And my good friend, Representative Larry Miller, he displayed a tremendous amount of courage and tenacity when he supported the young lady, and she's going to kill me, but I'm getting older, my brain gets kind of messy sometimes. But she ran for Speaker on the Democrat side, knowing full well that, of course, she had talked to people. But Representative Miller, who was the only African American that served on the Finance, Ways, and Means Committee, he supported her, and the chairman removed him. There was a tremendous act of courage to do all of that, but I simply say we needed someone over there to understand the money. And unfortunately, that doesn't happen. Because you play politics, it doesn't define you. I'm a Democrat, but if you talk to some other people, they'll tell you I'm some of everything. But I understand to whom much is given, much is required. And my guest has just arrived, TJ Terrell. Just come on in, TJ. I'm the world's worst when it comes to giving directions. Grab yourself, take a 5, and get mic'd up, and we'll do that, and we'll come. But my topic, I'm always talking about reading. Reading open minds and doors. And let me just go to my left, to my right, and it will be your right to your left. The first book we're looking at over there, it's I think it's Power. Miss Muse, my book here is that Power, from political power to economic power. And then of course that's by Mr. James Covington. Then we've got the New Jim Crow by Mrs. Alexander. She talks about all the locked up African Americans. Then we got Claude Alm. He talks about black labor, white wealth. We do all the work, we don't generate any of the money. Then we got civil rights, CIVA rights to civil rights. That means you better get some money. And then the pulse of perseverance. Those are the 3 individuals that they went to Xavier. My daughter went to Xavier. They were buddies, and they're all doctors now. And they're doing a tremendous work. You ought to get the book if you got a young person who thinks they might want to go into medicine, who don't have a clue. Get the book and let them read the book. And then you've got a book that it's been with me since 1973. It's by Thomas Sewell, Ethnic America. I encourage everyone to read that book because if nothing else, it's one fine point there that of everyone that came across on the boat, some willing, some unwilling, but everybody came on the boat. But there was one distinct factor. Out of all the nationalities that came across on the boat, there was only one race, one group of folk that embraced integration. One. Yeah, you guessed it right. They look like me, look like TJ. They are African Americans. We all decided that we want to integrate. Now we have no wealth. We can't build anything. We own the plantation begging for handouts. They're giving us rent vouchers. They're giving us food stamps. We can't do anything. Now that's not a Republican talking. That's Thomas Long, a Democrat talking. I do believe in capitalism. And then the last book over there, I think it deals with the 40 million slaves, talking about athletes and all that good stuff. So now, the topic today is who's in charge, the parents or the children. My guest, Terrell Johnson, we've been buddies a long time. TJ, as I affectionately call him, he started a foundation. It's called the Wake Up Youth Foundation. And the timing was appropriate with my topic today. He happened to be passing through Memphis, welcome home.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome home, TJ. And so he is on the show. He's here with me. TJ, why don't you say hello to the listening audience? That you have to speak a little loud in there. Right. Otherwise, Sean is going to look at it and give us a thumbs up, a thumbs down.
All right.
We're not talking like.
Well, first, I want to say good afternoon to our listening audience here with my dear friend, Mr. Thomas Long. I'm very, very excited about being here today and to discuss this topic of what's going on in America, all across America right now. So I'm excited for being here, and I hope your listening audience take notes, call in, and continue to make reference to what's going on with our youth today and their parents.
TJ, if for those of you that would like to call in, 901-452-3094, whether you like what we're talking about, dislike what we're saying, let's just talk about it. Because this topic, all this senseless killing. Yeah, I know everybody talking about, we're talking about Black Lives Matter. They want to picket and rah-rah, close down bridges and all that stuff. But the fact remains that black folk are killing black folk.
Absolutely.
So now, when the police, whether accidentally, inadvertently, something happens, we want to blow down the building, tear down the highway. We want to shoot, rob, do anything. But I've yet to hear anybody talking about this black on black crime. Oh, I understand. Because now we got to understand that we are part of the problem. And now we've got to become part of the solution. Young folk, if you're listening, whether you're seeing it on podcast or video or whatever, or you're listening on the radio, we've got to do something about this killing. TJ, on your wake, why don't you tell the listening audience a little about your foundation, the Wake Up Youth Foundation?
Well, the Wake Up Youth Foundation is a strategic anti-violence youth initiative that we do. We started in Memphis. We have an eastern location in Chattanooga, and now we're doing it all across the country within 61 cities. As you are my chairman, thank you for serving as chairman of the board. This started back in 2002. For you guys that don't know me and probably just hearing me, I am the first formerly incarcerated person to ever work for the police department, not just in Memphis, but in America. And Mayor W.W. Harrington appointed me. I became the first formerly incarcerated person to be appointed by Dr. Harrington in 2003. And President George W. Bush got a hold to it and said we by far had the best reentry program in the country. And that led us to, my wife and I, to start the Wake Up Youth Foundation, because what we had realized during all the political things that were going on across the country, that the government had removed prevention. So where there's no prevention, there is no training. Where there is no training, there is no learning. And that's why you see all the senseless killing. So that's why we started the Wake Up Youth Foundation, to implement prevention back into our programs here.
And, you know, TJ, even though I was kidnapped and brought to Memphis some 45 years ago,
yeah.
Chattanooga is still home, and I want to let the audience know that you have launched a chapter there in Chattanooga, and they're calling on you, because if we don't save our children,
yes, sir,
who will? Now I know we got all these pockets of individuals. We had them back in the day when I was growing up. You got the bougie,
right? You
got the hardcore. You got the wannabes, and I'm trying to. The director, well, he's very cautious of some of the terms. I will sometimes lose it and just say what I think, and so I'm gonna try to remember that they are listening across America. But I am serious about this killings, and we've got to stop it. And that my topic today: who's in control? Who's in charge? The parents or the children? TJ, what do you think? Identify what some of the major problems.
Well, one of the things I think that we have to be realistic and look at is that the people who are in position are really out of position, and they're not relevant to what's going on in the world today in our culture. So what I mean by that, there was a distinguished woman, a professor, who said that the teachers are afraid of the principals. The principals are afraid of the superintendent. The superintendent is afraid of the school board. The school board is afraid of the parents, and the parents are afraid of the children, and the children ain't afraid of nobody. So that lies our problem right there. So now we've got to restructure and go in and implement, again, I will lay on this word till the show is over, prevention. You got to go into the schools, in elementary schools, and train them on prevention. What happens when you commit a crime? What does it take for me to be charged as an adult when I'm in the 8th grade? We just had an 8th grader over in Prescott, Arkansas yesterday to shoot another 8th grader. Okay? So we had another senseless killer in Olive Branch last night, a 17-year-old, a 20-year-old, who knew each other. So when you talk about the books that's in front of your table, I've read the new Jim Crow 3 times, Dr. Michelle Alexander. That's all it is, you know what I'm saying? So until we get some real juvenile justice reform, some real criminal justice reform, all we're doing is going down a hill with no brakes. And it starts in our public schools. And it starts in the home. The children have taken the home. Parents are actually afraid of their children. Now, a lot of that has got to do with public policy, because if you call the police, you might get arrested.
So you trying to tell me back in the day when my dad hit me upside the head with the skillet,
right?
Or my mom went outside and got that hickory stick, and now if I decide to dial 911, the police gonna come and take my parents away.
Absolutely.
Then they're gonna put me in a foster home.
Absolutely.
It's not gonna be any structure. So it sounds like to me nobody's in charge of the hen house.
Well, and then what you got to look at, when they get through taking your parents away and you in a juvenile court system, it costs $301 a day and 14 cents to house a juvenile in Tennessee. That's $110,000 a year. So when you add that money up, who gets that money, where that money goes, and it's actually broken up the family. So what you don't see a lot of the black fathers in the home today. So you got a single mother who's working 2.5 jobs, trying to oversee her children, trying to take care of the house and home. So you have a 12-year-old who becomes the man.
And mama's trying to buy them Nike tennis shoes so Billy can go to school, don't want to learn anything because he thinks he's the head of the house. So he doesn't have to learn to read or write, but he just run things.
Absolutely. And since you mentioned schools, I was in Milton last year, the Milton High School, and they was talking to me about a young kid who had been suspended for fighting. He was always in trouble with the teachers. But the day the sheriff was driving me around, taking me on a tour through the city, at that time, we saw the kid walking down the street with a fresh pair of Jordans on. That it was his mom had took him to the mall the next day. So you do not, how can I say it? You do not reward a person who has been suspended or kicked out of school. You don't reward that type of behavior. One of my biggest pet peeves is learning has not taken place until behavior has changed. Until the parent takes the house back, then we're going to continue to lose.
So if the parents is going to take the house back, okay, sounds like to me that we need to start with the cell phones.
Right.
We need to take the cell phones down. Now, I'm a dinosaur, so I remember when we had the flip phone and I had one. But now you got phones that does everything. But I'm a firm believer that if you're going to be at the table having dinner, no telephones, they ought to be put in a basket and put upstairs or in the basement so that then you can talk. And when children go to sleep at night, I believe there ought to be cutoff time with telephone. 10 o'clock, because some of the youngsters, I look at my grandkids when they come over my house, they call me Warden Long.
Right.
Because I'm old school, and they just think that they can stay on the phone all night, talk, get laid up in the morning, don't get up and have breakfast, eat breakfast at 12 or whenever they want to. Really, there's no rules. So what we've got to do is reestablish the rules.
Exactly.
And of course, the law, I don't know if they did it purposely, the legislatures, when they turned around and said you couldn't do certain things for the children, took punishment out of the schools, like they did prayers,
right.
And all of that stuff. And then they're going to lock your child up. So someone has got to say, it's enough is enough.
Right.
And that's what I loved about the Wake Up Youth Foundation. Parents got to understand that if you get Billy in control before he gets 12 or 13,
right,
it's not going to be a problem.
It's not going to be a problem.
Now he might not love you. He might not want to come and jump in the bed and hug his mama. That's why a 2-parent home is excellent. You got one heavy,
right,
and you got a softie.
Right.
Now, the women normally are always the one that the children love.
Exactly.
And the daddy, who always dispenses punishment, is the one nobody likes.
Right.
But when you get grown and you want to reflect back, you always reflect back to that individual who held your feet to the fire, to the disciplinary fire.
Exactly.
Because that allows you to be disciplined, structured, and go about your business.
We got unforgetful on the line.
You got unforgetful? Hello, unforgetful.
And great conversation. But you know, when you're talking about the kids taking over the home and stuff, man, to me, it's start at home with the parents, man. We always say it start at home with the children. It's the parents, man. The deadbeat parents, like I used to be, and the parents that don't know how to bring up a child, man. That's the problem. It's us.
Do you think if and I do agree, I believe that the problem, because I go back, I grew up in a two-parent home, and I understand the pitfalls of all that. But those parents, that single parent, she's looking for help. Now I know a lot of religious community gonna run me out of this production booth here, but we got all these churches that the women need help. Now, when the fathers get out of jail, looking for a job, can't get a job, violate parole, go back to work, the system makes more money, but then they tell you got to pay child support, but you can't get a job. So how do you pay for your children and you can't work? It's like a unending circle that you can't get out. Yes.
Look, I don't even know who my father is today. And I'm going over 7 decades, man. So I think they're just a bunch of hogwash. My mother raised me, and she got married later on in life, and I had a stepfather who trained me up, because I saw him work, play, every day.
But what did your mother do? What did your mother do?
In front of me, he went to work.
But what did your mother do when she was raising? Okay, take me from her work day and all the children. But everybody understood that she was in charge and she meant business.
Right. See, it's our problem now. This society, the way it is, it's ridiculous, man. I mean, you got television and all that. Back in the day, man, if I was thinking about turning on television, I'd get so spanked and slapped aside the head.
So you want to turn the TV off?
I get slapped and took care of by my parents, man. Look, it's our fault, the adults.
I'll tell you what, I'm gonna.
We need to start from the. Hey, this generation is lost.
I'm gonna let TJ jump right in. Thank you for calling.
This generation is just lost. We need to start with kids from 5 on up, man.
Well, I'm gonna let TJ address that. If you sit back and listen, we're gonna let TJ deal with it. Thank you for calling.
Man, this generation gone, man. Don't waste your time on it.
Go ahead, TJ.
All right, I really I hear unforgiving. I hear the call. Unforgiveful. I hear his call, and I hear his frustration, and I agree with him to the point where that we're gonna have to we're giving up. And that's the thing that I don't want society to do, is to give up on our children. And that's why in the Wake Up Youth Foundation, we have one of our programs are called PAVE, Parents Against Violence Everywhere. So when the parent come in, we talk about, we just had an issue where a 10-year-old best friend was 17. Why? Why is your 10-year-old hanging with somebody 17? Okay, so we got to know the signs and the symbols of what's going on in our neighborhoods and what's going on in our communities. If the mother's at work working 2.5 jobs, doing what she can, there's no way that she can probably too much govern her house. So she has to implement that structure of a strong behavior at an early age.
Yes.
Because by the time the child is 5 years old, the child, most psychologists have made up their mind of what they're going to do, who they're going to do it with, and how they're going to do it. At 5.
At 5 years of age.
At 5 years of age, right? So they're making their own decisions. They're sitting in the house playing Fortnite on the games all day, and this is the game shows you how to kill, how to execute. They're sitting there playing all these video games that includes killing and taking lives.
So it's called Fortnite?
Fortnite is one of the games, yeah.
Wow, I don't play those videos. I'm not that adept at that kind of stuff.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But you have to govern your house. You know, my girls, I go in their rooms. I look through their backpacks. When they was at Kirby, I used to just go up to the school, you know, to see what was happening. I'm not telling the teacher or the principal. I'm just going to come up to the school to see what's going on.
So you did a drive-by.
I always do the drive-by. Always do the drive-by. I'm the parent. See, at 19, I was facing 35 years to life. So if you don't have someone govern your child, someone is going to govern your child, whether it's the gang leader, the pimp, the player, or the police department. They're going to get caught up in the system one way or another. You can't beat the system.
It can't beat the system.
Going back to what Unforgiven said, you've got to take most of society has given up. When you got grandparents don't even want to deal with their own grandchildren, then that's an issue. Because the parent, the parents going to come in, don't talk to my child like that, don't do my child like, why grandmama tripping, why granddaddy tripping. That's a problem now. That's a problem. That's a problem.
And you know, the reason I'm laughing, TJ, is because my grandkids, they're reluctant sometimes to come over to the house because they said, Grandpa be tripping.
Right.
And I don't be tripping. I just have rules.
Right.
You know, everybody, if you're supposed to get up in the morning, take a shower, we're going to have breakfast, we're going to sit down, we're going to have chores, and then we might do some activities that we love. But there's going to be rules and regulations and discipline.
Right.
It's going to be. It's not going to be everybody do what they want to do.
Right.
Stay up all night, watch TV. Well, if I cook the breakfast, you're going to wash the dishes.
Exactly.
And if you take a shower, then it's your responsibility to clean the tub out because it was clean when you got in.
Exactly.
The little bitty things. And then see, Mom is trying to do all the work, all the cooking, all the cleaning, and she got guests in the house.
Right. Well, and I want to reiterate because, again, I'm going back to our caller. He talked about what a great mom he had and she raised him and she got married later on. I'm also reminded of director Tony Armstrong, who had a strong mother, and he ended up being the police director.
Yes.
So I do want to give a shout out to those strong single mothers who do that. But of course, God has to be with you, and you have to be focused when you're raising a young black man in our community. In the book, again, I've heard Dr. Michelle Alexander lecture. I've read her book 2 or 3 times, but she talks about 1 out of every 3 black males are either in prison or dodging prison. So I don't care what your zip code is, either he's in or dodging. So you better put some prevention inside of your household. So you can't be afraid of your child. If you're afraid of your child, you automatically lose. There's no way you can win if you're afraid of a 10-year-old.
But you know, it's amazing that you would say that. I got a call today, and I'm not going to call the name of the individual, but the youngster had been arrested,
okay,
and he had to go to get fingerprinted booked,
right,
because he had misdemeanor citation. And it was all because he had parked speeding tickets that he didn't pay. And something as simple as a speeding ticket, I can't pay, so I can't tell my daddy, I want to keep the car, but I can't pay, so I keep on driving. I amass additional tickets,
right,
and then I end up going to jail over something stupid. Now, I tell parents all the time, check if your children are driving your vehicle,
right,
you need to get their driver's license number, social security number, and you check them through the system, Tennessee driver's license system, and see if they got any problem. Because they want to be good and riding with their buddies, and they driving dirty, as we all know. And that's just the beginning of it, because once they get stopped, then they get a misdemeanor citation, they get fingerprinted and booked, they get an RI number, then they're in the system. And I would simply say, TJ, you and I have been buddies over 20-some years, and our past, we want to give kudos out to the late
Dr. Rita Dorsey.
Dr. Dorsey.
Yes, sir.
And Speaker Pro Tem Louis DeBerry.
Yes, yes.
Because I remember when Dr. Dorsey wanted you to have a mentor.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And Speaker Pro Tem said that mentor would be me.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And I simply didn't want any parts of it, but then I had to look in the mirror and thank God, because our past was similar.
Well, on this radio show, I want to publicly thank you for mentoring me, because it was because of you that got my driver's license back and made me a productive citizen again. Got my voter's registration back. You and the late judge, my guy, McLean, yes sir, JC, to the honorable. I want to thank Dr. Harrington. I want to thank Dr. Dorsey, Pro Tem DeBerry, everybody who worked. We've got to have a holistic approach, and we need more Thomas Long, who can look at a person and say, you know what, I've got to get this guy and bring him across the desert, because now that's what I do for other people, which cost almost about 10 grand for me to get my license, and I didn't have it at the time, but you put me on the drive while you pay, and I always talk about drive while you pay, because it made me a productive citizen again, so I could go to work, I could pay bills and that type of thing. So I want to publicly thank you.
TJ, but we've got so much work to do.
Yes,
sir. I know that when Dr. Harrington tapped you to come in and begin to communicate with the police department, with the gangs, because when I look, what's your take on the Los Angeles killing out there with
Nipsey Hussle?
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that I looked at from being in the gang culture, facing 35 years to life at 19, I look at a lot of it, like as I was discussing with my wife last night, a lot of it is the hate, it's the haterism. Here you got Nipsey Hussle, who's in his community, who has barbershops, who has a clothing store, and he was doing a plethora of things. He was talking about criminal justice reform. So we're still looking into it. I got friends out there on the West Coast, and even the guys on the East Coast. I was on a conference call last night, and we were just sharing some things that we're looking into to see that why did this happen today, or either yesterday. He was supposed to have been meeting with the police chief.
That's right.
And I tell people all the time, that you got to be very, very cautious when you're talking about, are you an activist or are you an advocate? Okay, so a lot of times people don't know the difference, But and again, you have to be a spokesperson for the people. You have to be real, relevant, and revolutionary, and I think that's what Nipsey was.
Real,
relevant, and revolutionary. You gotta be that to take the home back, and it's going to take one of us to go talk to our gangster that's been reformed, that's redemption, that God has raised us from the dead, so we can go and give that speech and show people how we should live, and that's just the bottom line.
But you've got so many individuals who don't want people to know their past.
Right.
Because I remember with my mother, I toyed with the idea of writing a book, and she always told me that if you write it, you got to tell it all.
Right.
And I used to say, Mom, do I have to tell it all? She said, yes, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yes, sir.
Because if you're going to save and help some folk, they got to understand that you've been through some things also, and that there's a God.
Exactly.
There's a God there that will reward you, and you will help other folk. And I see so many people out here. Everybody want to be an NBA player, football player. And I tell people all the time that the best kept secret in terms of athletics is the baseball team. Baseball. It takes, first of all, you got 9 players.
I agree.
But you got 9 on the bench.
Right.
And then, whereas in basketball, you got 5 and 5.
Right.
And then tall, big, small, strong, short, weak. Anybody can play. But society, and I won't blame Nike. Nike just does a tremendous job of branding.
Right.
Everybody says just do it.
Right.
But my thing is, we've got to understand that everybody can't be 6'9" playing basketball.
No, you can't. And it goes back to what your mom said. If you're gonna write the book, you've got to be real, relevant, and revolutionary. But also, you have to, in a book, you have to practice what you preach, live what you teach, and exercise what you learn. And I think that's one of the things that the Wake Up Youth Foundation gets. When I come with my bio, 35 years of life, insane disciple, Southside Chicago. My mama was a junkie. So I had family members who had issues. Man, why are you saying mama was a junkie? Because she was. She died in Methodist Hospital as a junkie. So I can't hide that. You know, I got to talk about redemption. I got to talk about how the Lord saved me. 35 years to life, 10 years of parole. I got to talk about how I had to fast. I had to go into exile for 2 years, 11 months, 27 days, 8 hours, 40 minutes, and 30 seconds. I have to talk to gangsters from that lifestyle. It takes a lot not to blow somebody's brains out. See, we live in a society now when you talk about senseless killing, who's running the house? Let's go back to the topic. Is it the parents or the children? I can get you killed on credit. Back in the day, you would have to put a hit out on somebody. 7 people that got killed over the week, man. No money was involved. So you got to look at what are we actually doing. So you talk about Black Lives Matter. Well, I'd be glad when the Black Lives start mattering to black folk. And so other than that, we're fighting a war that you will never win. That's walking in the valley of the shadow of death. That's the only way. 23rd, so that's the only way you're going to be saved. That's it. So at the end of the day, if we don't put these 7 components that we have into rotation into these different cities that we're traveling in, and especially Memphis, number 1, prevention. Number 2, intervention. Number 3, law enforcement, faith-based. Number 5, community awareness. Number 6, mental health awareness that we don't want to talk about, the black family in the black church and the black AK, whatever. And number 7, juvenile justice reform. When you talked about reentry, going back to Dr. Alexander's book, The New Jim Crow, if you do not, people don't understand what reentry is. People get excited when they see people come home, but you got to understand reentry don't start when they come home. Reentry starts when they go in. So if you don't have a positive, productive reentry program on the front end inside of the penitentiary, which is 1,600 penitentiaries in the country, if you don't have a productive reentry program inside of the penitentiary, then coming home, man, we're behind the 8 ball. I got to find a job. I can't spell. I can't read. I don't know what my zip code is. You know what I'm saying? I'm 7, 8 years behind on child support, but then you break my legs and ask me why I'm limping? See, all this stuff is public policy. So we've got to be a bright light in a dark world, and the only way we're going to do it is we've got the parents going back to forgiving. The parents got to take the house back. Other than that, man, we're going out of here with no brakes.
Parents got to take the house back. 452-3094. 452-3094, area code 901. Give us a call and let me think. Tell me what you think. Tell me your personal situation. Whether you are with a child trying to run the house, or you've got children that want to run your house, or you got grandkids that's trying to manipulate granddaddy and grandma and all that stuff. Did they take the car? All of that, what's going on with us? We yet still, everybody wants to continue to blame white folk. You know, for some strange reason, we like to always say us against them. But we've got to run our house. I know in my house, growing up, 10 children, father working in the union, working in the foundry.
Right.
Mama homemaker. Daddy got a 3rd grade education. Mama got 11th grade education. But one thing Pop would always, he left every morning. We had to ride. He had a 53 wide Ford automobile. It would be 7 kids, all tucked in there. He never announced that he was getting ready to leave. We knew that he left every day at 7:30. And he would come, get his lunch pail, kiss my mother, and get in the car and crank it up.
But that's a different type of parenting. See, so how old were you when that happened?
I was about 4 or 5.
Okay, so you 4 or 5 years old. So I work with guys in reentry programs who are between 25 and 35 who can't even get to work on time, who leave the club and go to work. And then when they late for work, they got an issue with the managers saying, you know, well, you're going to write me up? Man, you got to clock in. If you're supposed to be at work at 4 o'clock and get here at 4:15, you are late. You have to be taught this. You were taught that.
That's right.
And so we are 3 generations behind. This is not Generation X. I've heard people call this the doomed generation. Doomed. So we are in desperate need of revival. And I'm not just talking about spiritual revival. I'm just talking about revival. Revive means bring back.
Bring back.
These young folks are dead. They have no for life. They have no regard for life.
You know, it's amazing. Yesterday, and it stood out with me because it troubled me. I was going to Kroger, and this youngster had on some black pants. The pants were on his thighs. He had his black shorts, and then he had a belt, and you could see his butt. And he was paroling around like he had the stuff going on. And the girls were following behind him. I said, what in the world?
But it's programmed. Though.
Programmed.
See, it's programmed. So in these conferences all across the country that I go to, we were in, and this is the beauty of going to conferences and learning. I was in a conference where doctors were. They were doing lectures on the spine. And one of the doctors brought up, when you sag your pants, and in order to keep your pants around your hips, you are throwing your spinal cord off. So by the time you get 35, 40 years old, you're going to be walking with a limp because you got to walk a certain type of way to keep your pants around your thighs. This is a medical issue. This is a medical issue.
But I'm lost. I'm lost. Why? I mean, I know we had fads when I was growing up. We had the afros and, and the Miami Stomper shoes that would hurt our back. We did a lot of dumb stuff. But it was just passing in the night. But this situation with our boys and their pants, it's been around about 10 or more years now.
Well, it's getting, everybody thought it was going to be a fad.
I thought
so it's not a fad now, it's an epidemic. Okay, so now you got little girls doing it. Okay, so let's be real. So you can walk on Beale Street, you can walk in schools, you can see, I mean, most of the young people are, they sag. Okay, I was at Alabama. I was doing a radio show and a TV show down in Alabama at the college. And one of the guys, he was in the booth, and his major was communications, and he was sagging. He had a 4.0 grade point average. So after the show was over, I asked him, I said, man, why you dressed like? He said, oh, man, this ain't got nothing to do with me. But yes, it does, because what you do is when you, if a person is walking down the street and see you, and I hate to say this, but they're going to profile you. He has a 4.0, but from out of the box of communication and working all of these levels and doing everything that we're doing in here, don't nobody know he's a communication major. Don't nobody know that he has a minor in psychology. You look like a thug, and that's the way they're going to program you. And that's what I teach in the Wake Up Youth Foundation, that perception is everything, sir.
Perception is everything.
It's everything. Perception is everything, sir.
This is P equals GE squared. You can tell I'm just about violated most of the rules today. P equals GE squared. I got so hyped up here with my good friend TJ. If you want power, the P, then you need to get to know the G, God.
Yes, sir.
You need to acquire an education, the first E. And for all the math people out there, algebra, you need to say to the square, that means you got 2 E's. The second E that you must acquire some economics.
Exactly.
So if you want power, P equals GE squared, because if you don't have an education, chances are you're not going to acquire any power. If you don't trust and believe in God, you can just throw the towel in, because when things get rough.
Right.
But you want some power. And I see it, and I hope and pray that things will change. But the more I travel, I see, the boys feel like I don't need to be able to read.
Right.
The girls used to say, well, we're going to make A's and B's, and now they dumbing down because they want to play like they are. Everybody, we in a mudslide. And it seems like nobody is talking what we're talking. My daddy was a preacher, 60-something years. Teacher, I know you were ministry still.
Yes, sir. Yes,
and
sir.
my thing is, what would be the first step that you would recommend? If we on this raft, we got 25 people in the boat. We got some saggers, uneducated, pregnant women, men that won't do anything, but you got to dump 2 out the boat.
Well,
what too would you?
My thing is, when you talk about it from a spiritual perspective, I look at it. If my people who are called by my name, you know, a lot of people don't understand how deep that scripture is. If my people who are called by my name would humble themselves, will seek my face and pray and turn from their wicked way. That's about 5 or 6 things right there. So you got to start off by repenting. So when you want to throw the guy out there sagging, when you want to talk about teenage prayer, everybody makes mistakes. That's why grace is so important. But we can't keep doing the same thing over and over, because that's not grace. That's cheap grace, as Bishop William Young would say. That's cheap grace. That's not grace, that's cheap grace. So you got to understand the difference between grace and cheap grace. But we got to turn from our wicked ways. We got to seek his face, because the boat getting packed. The boat packed. So when things happen, we say, why did this happen? Why? Because we're not following the rules. Our destiny is not written by us, but for us. That is the word of God. Our destiny is not written by us. It's written for us. It's already there. It's telling you what to do. BIBLE, the basic instructions before leaving earth. That's what the Bible stands for. So we're trying to fight something. I don't care what religion. I got friends all across the country. I got Israelites. I got 5%ers. I got Muslims. When I walk into, especially in New York, as soon as I get out the plane, assalamu alaikum, wa alaikum salam. Man, peace be unto you. I'm going on. You know, I come from John 3:16, talking about God so loved the world. Man, I'm trying to love everybody. You can't even argue with that scripture. For God so loved the world. I don't care what your denomination is. I don't care what your religious beliefs are. It said, for God so loved the world. So you deal with that.
Wow. This is P equals GE squared. I'm Thomas Long, your host. Give us a call, 901-452-3094. 452-3094. We are approaching, I think we are almost, well, we're going around third base, headed home. Let me just do a little something here. Let my sponsors know that I didn't forget about them. But I do want to recognize our sponsors very quickly here. Our sponsors, Time and Space Advertising, 219-1043, your Wellness Center, 1087 Alice, serving the Pioneer, Longview, South Memphis area. L&S Fish Market, 1301 Winchester Road. Tennessee Regular Baptist Bookstore, 1055 South Bellevue. Case Management, CMI. We talked about mental health.
Yes,
mental
sir.
Illness.
Yes, sir.
You know, we, in the black community, we act like it's taboo. But if you're sick, you do what? You go to the doctor. If you got mental illness, you need to go to CMI. Estee's Restaurant, 2246 South Lauderdale. And my new sponsor, the Eye Care Surgery Center. I say to all those individuals out there who are suffering from cataracts, I had that problem. I couldn't see 20 yards. Now I can see 500.
Wow.
I encourage you to go to the Eye Care Surgery Center. That number is 683-4600. And my good friend, TJ.
Yes, sir.
Terrell Johnson.
Yes,
I'm going to tell you, TJ, we got to bring you back. Because I tell folks to give us a call. Now people are going to be liking, don't like it, but it's about us. We have got to do something so that people can believe that they are worth something.
Exactly. Well, one of the things that, and I hope I can say this, but I remember Mayor Harrington used to always, you know, if I went with you, I was with Mayor Harrington or either with Michael Gray or Lieutenant Tyrone Curry with the police department. I had so many great mentors, but one thing Dr. Harrington used to always zoom in my head was, this is a black folk problem. And so, you know, he said it so much to me that this is a black folk got to fix this problem. And that's what we have to start looking at. You often say, well, this is not a white person's problem. It's not white people. We're blaming the white man. No, just like Doc said, this is a black person's problem. This black folk problem. We gotta handle this. And that's the same way the gangs do it. You know what I'm saying? Gangster disciples deal with gangster disciple problems. Crips deal with Crips problems. You understand what I'm saying? Vice lords deal with vice lord problems. Bloods deal with blood problems. Black folk got to deal with black folk problems. Preachers deal with preacher problems. All of this until we get on the same page. Unity. Psalms 133. How sweet and great it is to dwell together in unity. There's no unity amongst the black community. And we're fighting each other. We're pulling on each other. We're pulling each other down. We got to come on one accord. We got to have the same heartbeat. I hope you listen to the audience can hear what I'm saying. The same heartbeat. We've got to agree on these issues. That is us who are losing. It is us. So people want to talk about Dr. King. Then you got some folks don't want to hear about reentry. Man, we got Easter coming up. And if you don't holler about your love Jesus Christ, because if you love Jesus Christ, he was arrested by Rome, he was convicted by Rome, he was prosecuted by Rome. And when he come back, he coming back as a formerly incarcerated person. That's what Jesus coming back as.
Formerly
incarcerated person. That's what Jesus Christ is coming. If you're a Jesus lover. So when you talk about you don't understand criminal justice reform, you don't understand these books, when Jesus comes back, because you're going to be having a ball Good Friday, and you're going to talk about he got up with all power in his hand. Well, if you're that excited, understand that he was formerly incarcerated. He was arrested by Rome, he was convicted by Rome, and he was prosecuted by Rome. So when he comes back, he's coming back as a formerly incarcerated person, master, messiah, rabbi, leader, whatever you want to call him. That's what he's coming back here for and as.
So we need to get our house in order.
We got to get our house in order. And that's the whole point of redemption. Wake Up Youth Foundation was formed on Romans 13:11. Wake up out. The listening order, you need to hear this. Look at Romans 13:11. It says, wake up, for the time is near for our salvation than we know. It talks about coming out of darkness. We ain't just made this up. Romans 13:11 said, wake up, it's high time. That's why we sitting around here looking, oh, this is sad. People in Memphis, we have almost got numb to violence. Because we already know breaking news. Breaking news ain't even breaking news no more. I got friends from the Chi-Town, from Chicago. They said they're going to move back to Chicago from Memphis. Now, what does that say?
Wow.
We done got numb to it, man.
Yes.
We done got numb to it. The first 7 stories, man, is violence, killing, shooting, stabbings. So,
you know, it's amazing you would say that, because I've often wanted to call a boycott on the news networks, at least for the first 5 to 7 minutes, because all they do is they trying to one-up the other station. How many folk got shot? How many folk got killed? Breaking news, and that's all they talk about. But what about the programs? What do we need to do to stop some of this? It's not about ratings. It's about saving souls.
And what you have to understand in law enforcement, and you got to understand about the news, is that that's what they do for ratings. But also, and that's why I really love, I had certain people that I would deal with, like I dealt with Joe Burks at Channel 5. I dealt with Andy Wise. I had certain people that could interview me, who I would give my story to, because I know they was going to treat me right, you know. Because, see, what happens is, when you are being interviewed, they're going to take it back, they're going to cut it, they're going to do this and that, you know, so you're not really saying what I'm saying. You understand what I'm saying?
Well, I know.
Okay, so that's the whole thing about the ratings and all this. But when a person get arrested, like 14 people get paid. So do you know what kind of programs you got to have? When one person get arrested, 14 people get paid. When the police officer say you have the right to remain silent, that's just the officer. When they take you to the Sally Port, when they process you at 201, when they tell you look to the left, look to the right, somebody got to take your picture. When they take your thing and do your fingerprint, somebody get paid for that. So you're talking about 14 people getting paid. So it's got to start at home, going back to the topic of your show. Who runs the house? Right now, actually the children run the house. So we've got to take it back. And again, you want to talk about the Bible? The word says take it by force. Prayer is not enough. You can pray all you want to. But when you say amen, you got to do something. What does that include? Fasting, praying. You can pray, but you got to fast. You got to turn the TV off. You got to. I don't know what your religious beliefs are, but I'm Church of God in Christ, so I know it. I'm the Pentecostal, where I know it. The house, man. I walk around. I won't eat. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna fast, because some demons. If you look at Mark chapter 5, it'll tell you, man, that Jesus tried to. He had a gangster with it. He had the boy's son was cutting on himself. His disciples couldn't even get the demon out the boy. He's just out of control. And when Jesus pops up on the scene, Jesus said, hey, man, I brought my son to your disciples. Jesus looked at the disciples and said, hey, man, this is what we're dealing with right now on your radio show. This kind comes only through prayer and fasting. We don't want to fast no more. We just want to say, look, let us pray. Father, we thank. No, man, no. At the end of that, man, you got to fast. You got to turn that plate down. You got to turn that TV off. You got to walk around. You got to do some unusual things if you need some unusual blessings. And that's what folk don't want to do no more. So when people ask me, TJ, how did you make this turn? That's how I made it. Man, I did more than prayer. I was celibate. I stopped smoking weed, drinking Hennessy. 2 years, 11 months, 27 days, 8 hours, 40 minutes, and 30 seconds. I stopped eating meat, bread, pasta, and sweet. For 2 years and 4 months, I lost 55 pounds. Then people say, where do you get that power from? That's where I got it from. That's why. That's how you get it. So we got answers. We don't have clues no more. 20 years ago when I met you, we had clues. We have answers sitting in this studio today. We have answers. We don't have clues no more.
This is P equals GE squared. P, if you want some power, get to know God. The G, get you an education, acquire some economics. We've got about 4 minutes to go. Those of you that's listening out there or watching, give us a call, 901-452-3094. TJ?
Yes, sir.
Terrell Johnson?
Yes, sir.
My friend.
Yes, sir.
When I see you, I see me.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You know, people ask me about this, I'm trying to grow a little beard.
Yes, sir.
I really was not trying to grow the beard. I'm just trying to clean my face up.
Right.
You know, the hair goes back in, and then you have to pull it out.
Yes, sir.
That's
yes,
all.
sir.
But I'll tell you, it's always a blessing.
Yes, sir.
To have you in the midst.
Thank you, sir.
Because I know, but when I look at 25 years ago.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you for all that you do. Thank you for sharing in Chattanooga with the board and with our interns about how you got into school. I think that was so phenomenal. You know, I think that was so phenomenal for the people to hear. You know.
Oh, you're talking about when I did the good and then came back to the bad?
Yes, sir. That was well done, sir. That was well done. That was a short dissertation. Yes, sir.
I'm gonna have to have you back when
yes,
you
sir.
get back, come through Memphis again. But I do want to say thank you for coming.
Thank you for
having me. You have enlightened our listening audience, our watching, our viewing audience.
Yes, sir.
You brought it from the heart.
Yes, sir.
And as I say, brother to brother. But I do want to simply say to those individuals listening out there, who's in charge? Is it the parents or is it the children? You answer the question for yourself. Look at the rules to see what's going on. Because in my house, I know who's in charge. I know who's in charge when I was growing up. And I simply try to pattern my dad after my father. I want to say good evening to all of you. Remember, P equals GE squared. Power equals God, education, economics. And on that note, I simply say thank you, TJ, for coming.
Thank you, sir.
And I say to all of you out there,